My name's Guy Blaskey, founder of Pooch and Mutt, as it says on the screen. Today I'm here to tell you how telling stories can help your business. And I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about our story and about Pooch and Mutt's story. But it's not a big sales pitch. Don't worry that if you think it sounds like a bit of a sales pitch, it's genuinely not. I will then explain why I'm telling you about our story. So to start off with, this is Cookie, a chocolate Labrador. She is my mum and dad's dog. She was my mum and dad's dog. She was diagnosed with hip dysplasia at 3 months old. And she was told she would need a hip replacement by the time she was 3 years old. And that was the first that any of us had actually heard anything about hip dysplasia, which we now hear quite a lot of. We treated Cookie with a joint supplement for horses that was made by my mum's company called Blue Chip Feed. It was a very good joint supplement for horses, so we thought we'd give it a go. We had nothing to lose. The results actually blew us away. We were really surprised by quite how well it worked. And even the vet that diagnosed her and said that she would need the hip replacement within 3 years himself was amazed by the results that he saw. So when this happened, we thought we need to make this product for dogs. So we reformulated it, we repackaged it, we made it perfect for dogs. It was pretty good already, but it wasn't exactly right. So we made it right for dogs. And it was a huge success. And we launched that and another product, Bionic Biotic, back in 2008. And we developed a bit of a reputation for giving products that worked, products that did something, products that kind of did what they said on the tin and delivered on their promises. But to be honest, weren't that exciting. And there's only so far that you can take two supplements. So we had a decision of where we wanted to go. And I have a very big belief in positive nutrition and getting the right nutrients into humans, into dogs, into any animals, and the benefit that that's going to make. But you need a fun way to do that. So I wanted to build supplements into treats. I had the idea of building supplements into treats and making a functional range of treats. There's loads of them around. There's loads around the show now, but back in 2008, there weren't that many of them. So we launched these, and this was our attempt to make everything a little bit more fun, a little bit more approachable, and build something in that people would give their dogs every day, so more and more dogs could enjoy the benefits of those. That went on for a few years, and then it was in 2012 where we really got going with this range, and also in 2012, kind of caught up in a bit of Olympic fever, I started training for the London Marathon, which is an amazing experience, and I recommend everybody does, although quite painful, about 16 miles in to the end. But I learned a lot from it, which is why I recommend it. But two things happened during my training for the London Marathon. One is that I found out how much I could train with my dog. I did a lot of running with my dog Pepper. We actually raised a load of money. We raised money for the Royal Veterinary College Animal Care Trust, and also for Hearing Dogs for Deaf People, which is an incredible charity. If anybody is looking for a charity to support, have a look at Hearing Dogs, because it blew me away what they do. But this is me and Pepper training for the London Marathon. And I was really surprised, as I said, by two things. One is how much training I could do with Pepper, and how much she enjoyed running, and how fast she is. And the second one is I got really obsessed with nutrition, really obsessed with my nutrition. And then because Pepper was training with me so much, really obsessed with her nutrition, and looked at things through a new lens, looked at food through a new lens. And good nutrition, you can walk around and you can talk to every nutritionist in the world, and you can probably talk to about a million different, well, not a million people here, how many people are here, and everyone will give you different views on what good nutrition is. And actually saying good nutrition in itself is a very misleading thing, because you have to be good for something. Good as its own concept is largely irrelevant. But anyway, these are 3 points that I would judge all nutrition by, and I think all nutrition should be judged on these 3 points. One is that all food is either poison or medicine. Everything is either good for you, has positive effects, or has negative effects. And the job of good nutrition is to maximize the amount of good and minimize the amount of bad. It's pretty simple. The second point is food as fuel. And that's a quote from Socrates about 2,000 years ago. But a lot of time we look at food, potentially good food, through the lens of it could be indulgence, it could be taste, it could be anything, but actually food is fuel to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And it's important to know what you want to achieve, to know what is the right fuel. And I'll come on to that a bit later. And the second bit is the title of a terrible TV show, which is You Are What You Eat. But it's actually true. We're all made up, our skin, our bones, our hair is made up of what we consume. And when you start looking at food that way as the building blocks of you, start to see things differently. And when I looked at Pepper's food, through these three categories, I wasn't really very impressed with what was on the market. Yes, there were more and more good foods, but nothing that was really functional and nothing that I thought was delivering what it should deliver. So we launched our range of foods. Now, as I've said, we're probably 6 minutes in. And I didn't mean that to be a 6-minute sales pitch, and I hope it didn't come across as a 6-minute sales pitch. But even if you think of it as a 6-minute sales pitch, I haven't told you anything about what's in the food, why it's in the food, any technical information about the food. And actually, when you're in your stores and when you're talking to people, very easily, we all slip into giving a lot of technical information because we think that's a good way to sell things. And what I'm kind of here to show you today, and hopefully demonstrate, is that that's not a good way to sell things. And one of the reasons is actually, in a way, a nutritional reason. So this is the human brain. I've got to check my notes here to make sure I get this right. I'm sure we all recognize the human brain. The human brain uses 20 times more calories than any resting muscle in our body. It uses about 400 calories a day just by staying still and effectively doing nothing. The brain has evolved to be calorie efficient. It doesn't want to waste calories. And the way that the brain works to be calorie efficient is it works on stories. We remember stories. We remember narrative. We don't remember details and we don't remember facts, which is why if you're in a shop and someone comes up to you and says, tell me about this pooch and mutt food that you've got on your shelves, you'll be able to repeat probably quite a lot I've told you already. You'll be able to tell them about Cookie's story, you'll be able to tell them about me running the London Marathon, and you'll be able to repeat those stories. If I sat here and told you about protein percentages and fat percentages, you wouldn't be able to remember them, you wouldn't be able to repeat them. And there's a really important distinction. And that's why it's much more important to build your business, to build how you communicate with your customers around stories. Because this is how I show what marketing is. Now, in the olden days, before the internet, the way that marketing worked is you got big companies like Mars and Nestle with their big brands and their big budgets, and they would put their ads on TV, and then they would brief their sales team on their ads, and their sales team would go to the shops, and they would tell the people in the shops the same thing that was on the ads, and everything was a one-way communication, with a brand effectively shouting at the customer. And the customer didn't really have a choice because there weren't that many other brands out there, because without the internet it was quite difficult to set up another brand. Now, that's not your job as marketing anymore. Your job isn't to shout at your customer and tell them information because they have a choice of information. Marketing happens between your customers. Our job as people who run businesses and want to do marketing and want to get a message across is to share with people stories that they can share with other people. That's what's important. So that's one person sharing with someone else. And our job is to fuel that conversation and to help that conversation happen and not to shout at our customers. Now, I need to get on my next page. At this point, you may or not believe me on the power of stories. And effectively, today is about the power of stories. So I'm going to hopefully illustrate that with an example that's quite common in the pet world. This is a pack of wolves. You may have guessed. I hope you've all guessed that's a pack of wolves. Now, there is a good story in the pet industry at the moment that's been going for a few years. And it's fueled the growth in what's called ancestral feeding. And the story is this. that dogs have the same digestive system as wolves, so they should eat the same as wolves. And there's about 10 brands up there and a few down here that have based their whole businesses around this story. And that story works, and it actually gets people to feed better food, because without a good product and better food, the story falls apart. The story is categorically not true in any way. And I'm sure that might upset some people here, and it might upset some people in the audience. It's just not true. I could sit here and tell you the science and the data as to why that is not true. And if I did, you'd all argue with me. You'd all say you're wrong because you believe the story, and everyone's believed the story. So I can't tell you that. And this is the same, this works for, it doesn't work for dog food, this works for conspiracy theories, it works for anything. Now, that's how powerful this story is, that however much I will give you the correct data, you won't believe me. But if I come back to you with another story, you might believe the other story more. So this is Bluey. Bluey is the world record oldest dog, and I'm going to check this. Bluey lived to 29 years and 5 months. That's not actually how long most dogs live. They mostly live to about 10 to 13 years is the average. So why am I telling you the story about Bluey? Well, when you go back to the wolves, the average lifespan of a wolf in the wild is 7 years. That doesn't even get them to adult stage dog food. You think you see where I'm going? If a wolf gets arthritis at 7, 8 years old, it gets left behind by the pack and it dies. We want our companion pets to live to 14 years old. And we know that what you need to feed elderly dogs is different to what you need to feed younger dogs. So I'm telling you another story, and that story is going to make you think, oh yeah, maybe that wolf thing's not quite true. Maybe that story is a bit different and it doesn't tally. There is a thing called cognitive dissonance, which means you can hold two stories in your head at once, but we don't need to go in that now. But I can sow more seed of doubt about the wolf story by telling you another story than I can about telling you the details behind it. And now that that seed of doubt is shown, I'm going to tell you another story. This is Arnie, and this is Mo Farah. Me, you, Arnie and Mo Farah all have the same digestive system. We actually have a far more similar digestive system to the digestive system of wolves. Or the difference between, say, a cockapoo and a wolf, a little teeny cockapoo and a big wolf, they obviously have a much more different digestive system to you, to me, to Arnie and Mo Farah. We all actually have very similar, we're all quite similar size. Now, when Arnie was training for Mr. Olympia in those photos, he was having 4,000 calories a day and over 300 grams of protein split over 5 meals. Mo Farah eats about 3,500 calories a day with a higher level of carbohydrates and runs 100 miles a week. I don't eat 3,500 calories and run 100 miles a week, and I'm not training for Mr. Olympia, and I'm pretty sure nobody here is. So we shouldn't be eating the same as them, even though we have the same digestive system. That totally counteracts the whole argument of saying you should eat the same way because you have the same digestive system. It's a factor, but it's only a really small factor. So hopefully, I've proven or gone some way to prove that stories are the best way to communicate with your customers, which is my goal here today. And I've got 3 or 4 really quick examples of what I think are powerful stories that you may or may have not seen, and why they work. So, first one is a motorbike. It's called a Mutt Mongrel, which I bought in December. They've come up with a really powerful brand story, and what they've done, and it's one of the first companies to kind of openly admit this, they've made a shit bike that looks good. And they openly say, this has got a crap engine, the engine's worth 200 quid, but we've made something that looks good, and it's for somebody who wants a bike that looks good, but has just got their beginner license, can only drive a 125 bike. And it's a really simple story, and what happens is, if you are speaking to someone as a customer, as a person who's heard their story, and someone says, I'm thinking of getting a bike, I've just done my test, I want to get around, you'll say, did you know you can actually get something that looks good now? And it's a really simple story. They have given us the information as customers, And it's very, very easy for us to share that information. There's no talk of what the type of leather is, what the engine is. No one cares what the engine is, no one cares what the handle is. It's a very, very simple story. You can still look good, you can look like Steve McQueen if you want to, but your bike's shit, but it works. And it's cheap. And that's how simple things are. Another one is, I think probably $1 billion company now, a company called Warby Parker. And the founder's story is, he was going through his pockets, and he pulled out his glasses and his iPhone, and he realized that his glasses were a piece of plastic and glass, and they cost the same as his iPhone. And they realized that something had to be wrong within that. So he then looked into the eye care industry, and it's a massive monopoly. Everything's owned by a company called Luxottica. And he realized that making glasses had to be cheaper than making an iPhone. And that's the story that they built it on. And now they make glasses direct, they sell them direct. And anyone, if you're speaking to anybody who's in the market for a pair of glasses, you'll be like, oh, you should check out Warby Parker. They're cheaper because they're not part of this monopoly, because they realized it had to be cheaper than making an iPhone. It's a very simple story. Finally, this is one of my favorite ones because it really shows the difference between marketing and reality. This is Patagonia clothing, and they have a truck that drives around the States and will repair your Patagonia clothes for free. And it's an amazing story, and it tells you a lot that Patagonia care. It tells you a lot about the quality of their clothes, that they're going to be really good. It gives you a story that you can repeat to other people. The reality is, more people will share this story about this truck and how they repeat it and how good the clothes are and how eco-conscious they are. More people will talk about that than we'll ever see this one truck that goes around all of America. People would look at this and think, well, aren't they doing a great thing? They're kind of not doing that much, really. There's one truck going around 50 odd states. No one's ever going to see it, but the story of it travels a lot further, and the story is really easy for people to share. And my final story, which is a story that people can find hard to accept, but it's an interesting one. This is money. You didn't know. It's the reason that many people are here today, the reason that people do things, the reason people go to war, it's the reason people destroy the environment. But money is nothing other than a story. It's a shared belief that we all have. If you go to a bar with a £10 note, the barman will accept your money because he believes the same story about money that you believe. And he knows that his boss believes the same story about money that he believes, and that he'll get paid at the end of the day, and he'll get some money, which is just a bit of paper that he can take somewhere else and he can spend it. But the whole thing is just a story. It's just a story with a joint belief. And that's how powerful stories are, that our whole world seems to revolve around a story that in itself is incredibly fragile. And if you don't believe me on this, there's a book called Sapiens by a guy called Noah Yuval Harari, and he goes into this and the power of stories in immense detail, and makes you realize that, yeah, this is just a story, you know. Suddenly we could all start disbelieving in money and disbelieving the story, and it all falls apart. But because we all believe it and we all have a shared belief, it remains strong. So my final story, again, not really a sales pitch, but this is a can of dog food. It's quite an old can of dog food. This is when people promoted that it was a horse meat product. The name Ken L Rations. The can of dog food, or the can, is 200 years old. The can was invented in 1810. That's 79 years before the light bulb, 103 years before the bra, and 128 years before the ballpoint pen. It is very old technology. This is our most recent product, and again, I'm not doing this as a sales pitch, but more to show that I'm not just telling you something, that we actually believe it and we actually do it. This is the Tetra Pak carton. It's more environmentally friendly than a can, 80% less global warming emissions, which you can find out about here. It's better for the environment, you get a better product, everything about it is better than a can, and it's kind of the future. When we talk about our new product, and you may or may not have seen this in any of our marketing, at no point do we talk about how good the product is. We don't talk about the food in there because, quite frankly, it's a given. I would hope it's a given that with our brand we're making a very good product. We would hope you would all assume that we're making a very good product, so we're talking about the environmental aspect of it. The other problem is when you're talking, and you can say this is counts for most marketing messages, if we say our food's really good, so does everyone else here. There's no one here that's saying, actually, our food's pretty average. You know, go with the one that says their food's really good. It becomes a meaningless message. So you need a message and a story that someone else can repeat. So if we give you the information on this, you can share this information as a story. You now have the ability to say to customers, this is more environmentally friendly than a can. And this leads me on nicely to my final point. This is Yoda and Luke Skywalker, for those who don't know. Does anybody not know who this is? I met someone the other day who didn't know who Yoda was. I was quite upset by it. In Star Wars, Luke is the hero and Yoda is the guide. And in most stories, there will be a hero and there will be a guide. And everybody wants to be the hero. But our job as storytellers and as marketers is to be Yoda, is to be the guide. I want to tell you guys that our packaging is more environmentally friendly because I would hope you would want to do something about the environment. I hope you want to be the hero that can do something better. And when someone comes into your stores and wants to speak about a product, they're the hero. They are creating the heroic action of ditching the can and helping the planet. They're moving from a can to a Tetra Pak, and they are doing something better. You're simply their guide to help them do something better. Because heroes don't like other heroes. You do get the Fantastic Four, which is a bit of an aside, but you generally don't get heroes working together very well. Heroes want to be solitary and they want to complete their mission on their own. And your customer, who comes into your shop, is the hero. And your job is to make them feel like the hero and help them on their journey to be the hero. And you can do that by giving them stories that help them on their journey and help them achieve their heroic acts. There we go, that's bang on time.